Frédéric Benoist is a French lawyer for the NGO La Voix de l'Enfant, the voice of children. He joins me now live. Frédéric, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us. You pleaded on behalf of the NGO during the Scouarnec trial, where your focus was really on the immunity he seemed to benefit for over 20 years. Tell me a bit more about that first.
It's not 20 years, it's more likely 30 years. And the question is, what explains such a long criminal career? The silence in the family, because his wife knew, his sister knew as early as 2000. And of course, and this is something that is very important for the La Voix de l'Enfant, nobody acted. But besides the family, many people, many medical people in the hospitals knew about this 2005 condemnation, for having paid to visit child pornography websites. And what is totally amazing is that no one decided to take any preventive measure to make sure that this man would not be ever professionally in contact with children. So there's some kind of a chain of malfunctions which explains this impunity.
Indeed. And just a question on these prevention policies. So at the moment, there are no resources or prevention policies in France. Is that correct when it comes to child pedophilia?
Very poor protection of children here in France as far as prevention of pedophilia. I think we're very upset with the La Voix de l'Enfant by the French political system, which doesn't act. And maybe this case will force the governments, any government, to start and act more seriously in prevention of pedophilia. The system here is very poorly financed compared to what happens in Great Britain or Germany. It's something like 10 times less, as if we were to consider that victims here in France are 10 times less important than in Great Britain or in Germany.
And what about increasing public awareness? We saw so much support here in France for Gisèle Pelicot. Everyone knows her name, the woman who was abused by her ex-husband and dozens of unknown men while she was unconscious. Her ex-husband, Dominique Pelicot, we know his name, we know her name. Yet for this case, there's been very little public support, very little demonstrations for these 300 victims. Why?
There were public support, there were demonstrations at the beginning of the case. Now, very early in the trial, Le Scouarnec admitted his responsibility. So, in fact, there was some kind of a repetition of the same facts that were examined over several weeks, several months, and therefore I guess that's why they did not warrant a permanent coverage. People who were in the trial saw every day 2 or 3 victims explaining their situation, explaining how it was difficult for them to live with problems that they did not understand because they did not really know what caused these problems. And then in 2017 or 18 or 19, they were informed by the French gendarmerie of what happened to them, and they realized why they had those problems. So there was some kind of a repetition of the facts that were examined for so many weeks. And probably this is why there wasn't a permanent coverage. But again, what we hope is that this trial will at last put the French authorities in front of their responsibilities and start to act to prevent pedophilia criminality.
So, Frédéric, what concretely needs to be done to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again?
For example, Le Scouarnec's sister in 2000 understood that he abused sexually of her own daughters. She went on the internet and she found nothing. She wanted to know more about pedophilia, and she found nothing. Imagine that she, while looking into internet, that she understood that some structures were working upstream to help those who are sexually attracted to children to deal with this psychiatric disorder. Then probably she would have contacted them. Probably they would have helped her, and probably they would have interfered with Le Scouarnec's criminal career. At that time, we were 2000, so that's 17 years before Le Scouarnec's arrest. Can you imagine how many victims would have been avoided?
Absolutely. Frédéric, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Frédéric Benoist, French lawyer for the
Thank you.
NGO La Voix de l'Enfant, the voice of children. Thank you so much.